How's it going, guys? I'm Phil. This is Leviticus 17 from the Complete Jewish Bible, a Messianic translation, which I find to be, by and large, a better translation than most. That being said, it's coming from a Messianic perspective. Adonai said to Moshe, "Speak to Aaron and the sons of all the people of Israel. Tell them this is what Adonai has ordered. When someone from the community of Israel slaughters an ox, a lamb, or a goat inside or outside of the camp without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to present as an offering to Yahweh before the tabernacle, he is to be charged with blood. He has shed blood, and that person is to be cut off from his people. The reason for this is so the people of Israel will bring their sacrifices that they sacrifice out in the field, so that they will bring them to to the entrance of the tent of meeting, to the Kohen, and sacrifice them as peace offerings to Yahweh. The Kohen will splash the blood against the altar of Yahweh at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and make the fat go up in smoke as a pleasing aroma to him. No longer will they offer sacrifices to goat demons before whom they prostitute themselves. This is a permanent regulation for them through all of their generations." Now, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to make a few things that seem pretty clear to me, as clear to you as I can. For a start, I wouldn't be surprised if the goat demon they're referencing is Azazel. There's a process by which you send out your sin offering to Azazel. Now, why would somebody sacrifice directly to Azazel? Well, maybe you slept with your friend's wife and you need to put out a sin offering, but you don't want to show up with your sin offering in the form of a goat, and tell Aaron or the Cohen, "Here's what I did," in front, and have everybody like, that's what he did. There's his sin. Go tell Bob he slept with his wife. So you wind up going and trying to cut out the middleman. And in doing so, you feel better, and maybe you give praise to Azazel instead of to Yahweh. Azazel is a spirit who is not a substitute for Yahweh. He's not somebody to be worshipped. He's somebody who symbolically takes the sin by presumably consuming the goat that the priest has laid all of our sins upon, symbolically and probably literally. That being said, if you're going out and offering your sacrifices as you see fit, worshiping as you see fit, symbolically you're doing the same thing. This is all about people trying to keep what they've done a secret, I think. This is also about treating Azazel or other spirits as though they're God and giving sacrifices to them instead of making a sin offering to Yah and making a sin offering that gets carried away in the form of a scapegoat. So, we'll continue with verse 8. "Also tell them, when someone of the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you offers a burnt offering or sacrifice without bringing it to the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to Adonai, that person will be cut off from his people. When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you eats any kind of blood, I will set myself against that person who eats blood and cut him off from his people." I don't believe that this is the incidental blood of meat. This is not an argument for vegetarianism. However, it is an argument to keep as little blood in the meat as you possibly can. Blood is a spiritual thing. It's a sacred thing. And he goes on to say, for the life of the creatures in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make atonement for yourselves, for it is blood that makes atonement because of the life. This is also why Yeshua's blood washes us clean. This is why I've told you, the people of Israel, none of you is to eat blood, nor any foreigner living with you is to eat blood. When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you hunts and catches game, whether animal or bird that may be eaten, he is to pour out the blood and cover it with earth. The symbolic burial there. For the life of every creature, its blood is its life. Therefore I say to the people of Israel, you do not eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is in its blood. Whoever eats it will be cut off. Blood's Yahweh's. That's his. You don't eat that. That's really all there is to it. Verse 15, anyone eating an animal that dies naturally or is torn to death by wild animals, whether he's a citizen or a foreigner, is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and he will be unclean until evening, and then he will be clean. But if he doesn't wash them or bathe his body, he will bear the consequences of his wrongdoing. Now, this bears some interest, because essentially it's clear that you're not supposed to eat these kind of things. But people wind up hungry. People wind up starving. And there's also a line dealing with if a man hires a prostitute, he has to pay her what he agreed upon. This isn't an encouragement of prostitution. It's telling you to be right in your dealings, even if your dealings aren't exactly right. Obviously, don't sin, but we are people who sin. So if you wind up hungry and you eat something you're not supposed to do, eat something you're not supposed to eat, wash your clothes, bathe yourself in water, you're unclean until evening, and then you'll be clean. If you don't do this thing that you're supposed to do to make right, to get yourself clean again, you bear a consequence. It's really about the sum of it. This is a real short one for me, but I think maybe we'll continue real quick into Leviticus 18. Adonai said to Moshe, speak to the children of Israel and tell them, I am Yahweh, your Yah. You're not to engage in the activities found in Egypt where you used to live, and you're not to engage in the activities found in the land of Canaan where I am bringing you, nor to live by their laws. You are to obey my rulings, my laws, and live accordingly. I am Adonai, your Yah. You are to observe my laws and rulings. If a person does them, he will have life through them. I am Adonai. Now this is really easy. It's not just Egypt. Egypt's wherever we're drawn out of, and Canaan's wherever we're drawn into. That's not Israel. Don't keep secular things. Don't keep worship of pagan gods. Do not augment paganism to your faith. That being said, let's continue. None of you is to approach anyone who is a close relative in order to have sexual relations. I am Adonai. You're not to have sexual relations with your father, nor sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. You do not have sexual relations with her. You are not to have sexual relations with your father's wife. That is your father's prerogative. You're not to have sexual relations with your sister, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother, whether born at home or elsewhere. You do not have sexual relations with them. You're not to have sexual relations with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter. Do not have sexual relations with them, because their sexual disgrace will be your own. You are not to have sexual relations with your father's wife's daughter, born to you, or born to your father, because she is your sister. Do not have sexual relations with her. You're not to have sexual relations with your father's sister, because she is your father's close relative. You're not to have sexual relations with your mother's sister, because she's your mother's close relative. You're not to disgrace your father's brother by having sexual relations with his wife, because she's your aunt. You're not to have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law, because she's your son's wife. Do not have sexual relations with her. You're not to have sexual relations with your brother's wife, because she's your brother's prerogative. You're not to have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter, nor are you to have sexual relations with her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter, because they are close relatives of hers, and it would be shameful. You're not to take a woman to be the rival of her sister and have sexual relations with her while her sister is still alive. You are not to approach a woman in order to have sex with her when she is unclean in her time of nida. That's the period. You're not to go to bed with your neighbor's wife and thus become unclean with her. You're not to let any of your children be sacrificed to Molech, thus profaning the name of your Yah. Now I submit to you that if you are sending your kids out to pick up Easter eggs, you are sacrificing your children to a pagan god. I submit to you, if you lie to your children about Santa Claus coming down the chimney, you're not worshiping Yeshua, our Messiah. You're sacrificing your children to a pagan god. The tree in the house, originally they worshipped Asherah through the tree. They offered presents underneath it. Now we have the presents that are underneath the Asherah tree, which are the same as food laid before idols. We give those to our children, but what are we really sacrificing? We're putting our children around a tree with lies that are leading them away from Yeshua, our Messiah. We are sacrificing our children to a pagan god. Oh, you're not to go to bed with a man as a woman. It is an abomination. This will be very clear on, I don't hate anybody just because they do things that are sinful. But it's simple. You do not go to bed with a man as a woman. This is if you're a man. It is an abomination. You're not to have sexual relations with any kind of animal and thus become unclean with it, nor is any woman to present herself to an animal to have sexual relationships with it. It is a perversion. You do not make yourself unclean by these things, because all of the nations which I am expelling ahead of you are defiled with them. The land has become unclean, which is why I am punishing it. The land itself will vomit out its inhabitants. But if you keep my laws and rulings and not engage in any of these disgusting practices, neither the citizen nor the foreigner living with you, for the land for all the people of the land have committed these abominations, and the land is now defiled. If you make the land unclean, I will vomit you out too, just as it is vomiting out the nation that was there before you. Those who engage in any of these disgusting practices, whoever they will be cut out from their people. So keep my charge and do not follow the abominable customs of the others that came before you and have thus defiled yourselves by doing them. I am Yah, your God. Now, there are some old-time religions where sexual rights with animals were part of the worship. It served for metaphors and symbolic acts and studies of their faiths. At the same time, even the Romans in the Colosseums would sentence people to be killed by being copulated with by creatures. That's a painful way to go, as I understand it. Basically, we're not to keep the things that the pagans do. And we're to be very clear about who we are to sleep with. And marriage is a sacred thing. You don't sleep with anybody's wife. Don't sleep with a close relative. That's about it. Beyond that, I just want to wish you all a happy evening. Yahweh bless you. Yahweh preserve you. In closing, I'm going to go ahead and say a little blessing. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our Yah. Adonai is one. I hope you have a blessed Shabbat. Shalom.